There's so much confusing and conflicting information out there around pregnancy and birth, and none of it comes from the people that are actually in the room. We are Sarah and Catherine, two Canadian labor and delivery nurses with over 4,500 births under our belts.
What if the nurse holding your hand during labor could also answer every question you were too nervous to ask your doctor?
Welcome back to 4,500 Births Later. We have a remote interview today with Jess LeBlanc from Embodied Adventures. Jess is a connection catalyst. She inspires others to build a healthy connection and interaction between mind and body in the pursuit of health. And we're really excited to have you on the show today. And we're just going to unpack a few things with you. So
just a few casual topics this morning.
Exactly. So beyond my introduction of you, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, it's so adorable because your introduction highlights how long we've known each other, because the original name of my business was Embodied Adventures, which is when I would have met you like over a decade ago. It's now Embodied Living, but it's only because I just recognized that there was so much more to what I was up to versus originally like retreats and wellness, corporation, like gatherings and team building and stuff. So I was like, oh, there's way more to this. But yeah, I'm just so grateful to be here. And Sarah, it's been so lovely to have you in my life for a long time. And just to watch all the different versions of ourselves evolve. I feel like I've had 4,500 births of self.
I love that. Awesome. Okay, so Jess, take us back to the beginning. Who was Jess before Embodied Living? And what was the moment that you knew something needed to change?
Well, I was formerly a school teacher and decided to be a school teacher because my favorite aunt and uncle were school teachers, and they had traveled Australia when I was a little girl teaching. They did like a teaching exchange, and I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into medicine or if I wanted to go into teaching or science. I don't know. I was just a hot mess in university. I had been dealing with some big family stuff. My parents were separating the summer before university, and my home life was quite tumultuous. And so I just wasn't really sure what path I would take. Anyway, I ended up going to this job fair, and they were like, oh, you can come do your master's in Australia and teach. And I was, oh, well, I love my aunt and uncle, and they did that. And they're the coolest people I know. So I guess I'll just do that. And I've always wanted to go to Australia. And so anyway, the long and short of it is that I ended up becoming a school teacher, and embodied living really eventuated essentially because after some time in the school system, I recognized that we weren't really teaching young people the skills that they needed to thrive in life. We were teaching them concepts and tools and skills, sure, that may be important-ish, but there was a large gap for me in the emotional, social learning. And this is way back in the day. It's better now, better-ish. Again, I keep ish.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, oh, well, embodied living, like when I ended up coming back from Australia to Canada, I didn't want to go back into the school system. And so I created, like I said, what was Embodied Adventures. And I wanted to teach yoga and movement, and was super inspired about taking people on retreats and helping them connect back to themselves. And then over time, Embodied Adventures turned into Embodied Living, which encapsulates like all of the tools and the skills and the learning and the community that I think people require in order to really be successful, like whatever version of success is for them in their life. I grew up very ill-equipped of tools to manage really difficult things, despite being exposed to a lot of difficult things. And I spent many, many years and a lot of time and money and effort acquiring so many mentors and opportunities and resources that helped me survive and process trauma and rewire my nervous system and change my relationship dynamics. And I wanted to be able to offer that to other people. It's so important, despite
That's
where you
very
come from.
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And you do that so beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did my yoga teacher training during the pandemic with you, and it was remote and then in person in Ucluelet, small group. We followed all the rules, and
We did.
it was transformational.
hmm
Yeah. So thank you for the amazing work that you do.
Oh my gosh, thank you for participating. And I think just being here on this podcast as well, and knowing you, like I said, I've seen so many versions and so much change go on in your personal life, Catherine, less so with you, but I imagine like the two of you have just been side by side moving through life. And I think it's so easy for individuals to remain on a trajectory that doesn't align with them or doesn't make them feel happy. Like when I left teaching, there was so much judgment. People were like, oh my gosh, how could you leave teaching? You just spent all this money internationally going to school. You did this, but what about a pension? And I was like, I am going to die if I stay in this system that doesn't work for me. And I just can't. I can't. And so it's so amazing to see you follow your passion and your dreams and do this, because like I said, it's just easy to not. People get comfortable and
In the day-to-day. Yeah.
yeah, like I'll just get married and have kids, and all those things are beautiful, but not if they make you feel like shit and you're unhappy and you're just saying yes to things because that's an automatic default way of being.
Yeah. Yeah. It's harder to break away, become who you want to be. It's so easy to just do the same thing over and over and over again. You're very, very inspirational. Not only pregnant women, but I feel all women need to hear you. And we're so excited to dive in and get into what you do a little bit more here. If you could tell us, the word embodied is at the core of everything you do. What does that word mean to you? And why is it the right foundation for your work?
The word embodied really is a reminder for me that coherence and lived experience and deep internal knowing is the best kind of learning and expression. I feel also that in my lifetime, I've witnessed and watched people in academia, my parents, my family, like there's just been so much incongruence and so much talk, but not a lot of walk, and people not practicing what they say they believe. And for me, that was really confusing internally. I was like, wait, you say this, but you do that. And you said it's fine, but it's not fine. The embodiment piece for me is like, you can read all the self-help books you want, but if you are an asshole to the person at the grocery store and you can't live those lessons, like, what are you doing? And embodied, just, it is you. You are that. It's just authentic and real and true. Yeah, embodied has become a very trendy word. Sometimes it gives me a bit of ick because everyone is using it now. And back in the day, I felt like a bit of a freak when I was like, oh, embodied. And people are like, okay, whatever, woo-woo. It just feels so right for me.
And that's, I think, a lot of what we're doing, right? With the podcast and our future book and prenatal classes is truly being embodied. And this is a passion project for us. And we hope to make a difference in the world.
Yeah. You really believe in what you're doing, and it shows, and it just like radiates out of you. And then people can receive it a lot better, or just receive it in general when it is real and true. People don't have to like clear away and try to untangle or decipher, It's like, this is it.
Exactly. For someone who has never heard of embodied living, I know we've touched on it a little bit, but how would you describe it in a way that goes beyond the website and tells us a little bit more of what the services are that you offer?
I would firstly touch on the fact that perhaps they're knowing that something doesn't feel right in their life, or they're trying to do everything correctly, or they've been walking this path that they've been told to walk. People who are just really sensing that there's more to life for them. A bigger purpose, a bigger passion. Doesn't necessarily mean that they need to change the world, but I think embodied living is a community that will support and nurture. People can come in without any judgment, and they can just show up as they are, whether they're a mess or they're in bloom. It doesn't matter. Like, they'll be well received, and they can learn different skills and tools and resources to better their life. And that the learning is tangible, it's practical, it's simple. So I think embodied living can help people simplify and like refocus on what matters most and tap into the things that are important to them, whether it's through a course or an adventure or a festival that I run or one-on-one coaching. They can be reminded that it doesn't actually have to be that hard.
And I think in this day and age, we need more of this in our life because of the digital world. Everyone is so overstimulated and so distracted from the human connection with other people. So to have somebody like you that is giving these experiences is so incredible and needs to be widespread. Everybody needs to get off their phone and go on an adventure or do something that's not the tick, tick, tick on the, hamster wheel. Same thing over and over. They need to break free, experience.
Yeah, for sure. And that
short.
Yeah, and a lot of what embodied living emphasizes is that experiential learning. It's not just theory. It's not just information overload. It's like, okay, well, how do we apply that? What's the context? What is the real life situational usage of that? And how can you be in the practice of that in your own life? I always find it so bonkers and bizarre that this idea of human connection is probably more than ever going to be the most sought after commodity. We have forgotten the vital nature of our biological need to connect with each other, or we've learned how to connect in these digital spaces, which are great. Like, look what we can do here. We can make digital spaces feel really warm and connective. And I think we do that really well in embodied living, like in our courses and so on. And if I can remind people of that or create some kind of catalyst for people to connect back to themselves and each other and the planet as well, that's what embodied living is.
Where are your classes held? Where can people go? Is it all within Canada, or?
I do host international retreats. It is really important that people get outside of their everyday life so that they can, again, be reminded that there's different culture, there's different ways of being in the world, that there is such a great, big, beautiful world. So that's really part of the retreat style immersions. But mostly since the pandemic, a lot of our coursework has been on Zoom. And people are always like, oh, is it going to feel like still good? Yeah, we do such a great job. Like, it's so fun in our Zoom containers. It's not, Sarah can attest to that. It feels like you're in a room with people in real life. And then if you go on to have an immersive experience with us, everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe I just met you for real right now. I feel like I've known you forever. I hope to do a lot more in-person, real life experiences and courses. They're coming down the pipeline.
Surrounding in general, UQLIC BC makes you feel already that kind of calm. Whenever I've gone to Tofino, I just feel very cozy, just so cozy and calm. And yeah, so just your surroundings in general, you just are in a place where it's not the busy city that Sarah and I are used to, the buzz. You're instantly in that kind of tranquil, beautiful surrounding.
Yeah, and I've lived in cities and I've spent a lot of time in that environment. And over the years, I've recognized there's such value, especially in the volume of people and the opportunities and the experiences. Like, I very much miss living in a city at times. But I've recognized that over the past several years, my nervous system has required something different. And I needed to slow down and move at a different pace so that I could create differently and I could continue to have sustainability around what I do. The pandemic really rocked me in the sense that I have never had more people come to me with their pain. Like it was devastating. And I had to work really hard to have energetic hygiene around not taking on people's stress, not taking on their trauma, but people severely traumatized by that experience. And I think we still haven't really fully acknowledged as a culture and as a society the impact that had. People are still struggling to reorient themselves and to regain access to some of the skills that they had in the way that they were before. And I don't know that we'll ever get back to fully the way that we were, and that's okay. We can have a new version of ourselves and of our society.
As you know, the show is for our pregnant listeners, our expected moms, and motherhood. So pregnancy can be one of the most profound yet overwhelming seasons of a woman's life. How does the work you do at Embodied Living speak to that experience?
I love birth and pregnancy and that entire journey for people. And I am so blessed to have a lot of women like yourselves in my life that hold space for that transition and transformation for mothers. I think it's imperative. Primarily the work that I do, and I've seen it. I've watched my students move from stress and default ways of operating and angry or like emotional trauma and certain things that have really like held them back or stopped them or blocked them or like made them sick and unwell. Like I've seen how working together and being a part of this community has helped them tremendously be in the preparation for birth, to like choose new choices, to take care of themselves, to honor themselves, learn boundaries, learn how to advocate for themselves. Like all of the tools and skills that I think you need as a mother, you have to like almost like reparent yourself. So many people didn't get the parenting that they needed. And it's not, we don't have to go into all the details or shame the parents because we all know like everybody's just doing the best that they can with what they've got. But if we can fill up our toolbox with more skills and more information, knowledge, and wisdom, the better we are in rearing another human being and supporting another human being. But if you're not supporting yourself and you don't know how to do that, I really believe truly in my heart that it's going to make your motherhood experience a lot more difficult. So
absolutely, yes.
Now
we deal with a lot of patients that have past birth traumas and they come into the labor rooms carrying that trauma. What advice would you give to those moms? I mean, we don't want to just say to them, just let it go, but what work can they do at home in order to prepare themselves for coming into the next delivery?
Yeah, I think really looking at what happened and the stories around what happened. There's the facts, like we experienced a difficult situation or, you almost died in your last delivery. Like there's real tangible things that occurred that were scary and hard and, maybe mishandled or could have been different, whatever it is, right? It's a whole package of things that happened. And that's not just in labor and delivery. Like this could have happened when you're 8. Things happened. And so we want to honor and acknowledge that there's things that have occurred. We've all had traumatic things occur. And then what is the story that we've actually created around it? What's the meaning that we've made around it? And I think there's real power and potency in untangling those two. And what happened is maybe not your responsibility and you maybe couldn't have changed that, but you can change the story and the meaning that is attached to it. And so using mindfulness strategies, like understanding your nervous system, like being able to catch yourself when you're in that story or you're in that fear and be like, okay, what tools do I have to like regulate myself, to like process the emotion and move through the emotion? Because it's going to come up. And I witness and watch so many people like get so stuck on the meaning, and that takes them out every time. And it doesn't need to be like that. Truly.
Yeah, That makes sense because the neuroplasticity in your brain, you're telling yourself the same story over and over and over again. And sometimes your brain is lying to you.
Mhm.
It's not even facts, but it's just the same narrative over and over and over again. So,
Yeah. And thank you, body, for keeping me safe, for like putting an
yeah.
alarm bell inside of me to be like, whoa, okay, like this looks like, feels like, smells like a lot like that time when this happened. But being able to find ways to be like, okay, like there is no actual threat or danger here in this moment. You know, I'm responding to something that has happened in the past. So I think the baseline nervous system education is really helpful for people, to get them back into safety, and safety being connection. So asking for what you need in those really challenging moments, or being able to go back and think, okay, the last time I was in labor and delivery, these things happened and it was really scary and it was really uncomfortable. Like, how can I set myself up for success now? Who can I invite into the space that I feel really held by? Like, what are the resources? What are the tools? What does the environment need to be like this time? Rather than just remain frozen in the fear and assumption that it's going to be all the same. Like, you actually have a lot of ways that you can empower yourself to make new choices and to let it be different. But I think people get, again, stuck in their like people pleasing tendencies, or their like martyr behavior, or they don't know how to advocate for themselves, or they don't even know how to like think about what they need, because they're like, oh, that was just too hard. I want to avoid that. I don't even want to think about what just happened. It's like, okay, well, it's not going to go away.
What do you teach your students to regulate their nervous system? Like, what are some tools our patients can use to suppress the fight or flight?
Yeah, I mean, I think welcoming the fight or flight at the time, just being like, okay, like this is where we're at. Yeah, of course, it's going to feel a little scary right now, and you're in activation mode. Like, your body is trying to figure out if it needs to fight or flight. So, like, I think the education piece is really potent for people, and so helpful, because we, again, a system that we were not taught in school. We were not taught about our nervous system typically, or how to switch gears when we're stressed. And then there isn't really, for me, I don't believe a one size fits all approach to regulating someone's nervous system or helping them create safety, because everyone is so different. Some people, it might be like cold water, like on their face, or could be like physical touch. Like, do you want me to rub your back? Like, some people just need to like focus on breath. But, you know, starting to shift the activity, or shift the dialogue, or shift the perception of what's happening, in order to remember, like, okay, I'm here now. This is what's going on. Like real time awareness of their surroundings and their environment, and then managing what is it that they need. And again, sometimes they just don't know what they need, but we want to try to get that individual out of distress. So could be a little bit of a trial and error sometimes.
Mm-hmm. That's really good, really helpful. Thank you.
But I think when people know that, hey, like, of course you would feel scared right now. Yeah, that's so natural. Like, yeah, and remembering too that pain is not always directly correlated to the injury or the physicality. Pain is also a story and a concept that our brains, it's perception. So I see and hear a lot of, and you would do the same thing, is a lot of women are like, oh my God, giving birth is like the hardest, most like horrendous thing. And there's a story. It's so painful. Like, oh my gosh, it was like, la, 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 la. Like, and they're very vocal about their experience. And then someone else on the receiving end is like, oh my gosh, like, that's what it's like. Or like, they take on that story. And then there's a woman who's like, that was the most beautiful, cathartic experience I've ever had. And so I think in the landscape of birth and pregnancy, and people need to be mindful of how they're speaking about this experience, and know that it impacts someone else that's listening. So
Definitely.
you can own your experience, but speak speak to it in that sense. Like for me, it was like this. That's not how it is for everyone. And we can't blanket it. Just like the tools to get us out of that stress and pain or discomfort, like that's not going to be the same for everyone either. Not everyone wants to be in a pool of water, as an example.
Mhm.
So
Very true.
lots of options, I think.
And on that note, like the language around birth is so important. When a woman is pregnant, it's almost like there's this societal norm where other people will start telling the pregnant woman their birth story, whether it's a positive, empowering one or a traumatizing one. And so I think it's important for pregnant women to have boundaries. And if someone's like all of a sudden sharing their birth story, that they are able to say, okay, is this going to be inspirational for me? Or are you unpacking something that maybe I don't want to hear because it could feed into fear for me?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that, yeah, something important for women to keep in mind.
Yeah. And I think that at the same time, like when your question was like, well, how can some of the tools or the skills or like my business support women on this path and on this journey, or men or any gender or anyone who identifies with anything? Like the work is for humans, but learning more conscious ways of communicating, understanding, like I said, the nervous system, being aware of our impact, our personal impact, and how to clean that up sometimes and take responsibility and accountability, or the opposite, take accountability for what you want and what you need and speak to that. Like, I don't actually need to hear your story. Thank you.
Mhm.
End of story. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't,
Like
I
going
also
to the-
don't want to hear like what you did to feed your child and their sleep training regime. Like everyone is so different. We've seen it in healthcare. This is the protocol. We've seen it in education. This is how we deal with this. And that has been great in a sense, but it doesn't always lend itself to individualized care or attention or awareness and recognition that every body, every mind, every heart is different. And so how can we tend to
Yes. Now, a mission of Sarah and I's, part of the reason why we started this podcast is fear. It's one of the biggest things we see hold women back in labor. From your perspective, how do we work with it rather than against it?
can I ask you a question about the fear piece?
Of course.
Like,
Yeah.
because I'm curious, like, where is the fear coming up for folks most? Is it like, I'm fearful that my baby's not going to be healthy. I'm fearful that something's bad going to happen to me. I'm fearful of the pain. I'm fearful of the unknown. Like, obviously it's like a whole combo, but like, what do you feel is the most common root of the fear?
So, yeah, it's a combination of all of those things that you just mentioned, but we think it's stemming from social media. It's at an all-time high frenzy of misinformation. And just as you had just discussed, people sharing their trauma stories. And so that feeding into women, and they're bringing that into, even if it's not their trauma story, they're bringing it in with them.
Or, yeah, like a new topic that's come up online. People will come in fearful about giving their baby vitamin K, being misinformed that it's an immunization when it's not. It's a vitamin, and just it's endless. Like there used to be the straightforward, yeah, I'm fear of the pain, right? Or a repeat of what happened to me last time I had a baby, or I don't know, basic fears. But now, wow, they've exploded.
Yeah. There's just like an overwhelming amount of things to be afraid of. Yeah. And sometimes like I said, sometimes the more information isn't always the better. Like, or if you don't know what to do with the information, if you don't have a sense of discernment in your own self, yeah, it's so fascinating. And I think a lot of it comes from the disembodiment, and the discernment piece. If someone is clear about what they stand for and what they want and what they believe and how they like feeling in their body. Like I see it in like movement practices when women get pregnant, like a lot of fear comes up of like, I'm going to hurt my baby if I twist, like if I lay on my back, like because they're taking in, like you said, all of this information. And I'm always like, listen to your body. Like, what does your body tell you? Like, it's always giving you information, but people are so disconnected from their body that they're then relying on all of these external sources of information. And so I think the more tools and the more practices and rituals that we can give mothers to get them back in their body and trusting their body. Like, women are designed, like this is biologically inherent to us. But like you said, all of the information overwhelms and floods their system, and they can't even hear what's going on inside. So I think learning how to quiet the noise a bit and tune in. I just think at the end of the day, we can't stop the stress or the stuff, or like we don't have control over someone else's experience, but we ultimately have the ability to tap into our needs and our wants and our desires and how we feel inside. But if you're numb and disassociating 90% of your life, you're going to miss the messages that your body is telling you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that answered the question for sure. And I just think of when a woman truly is in her body and she gives birth, then she can be 100% present for her newborn baby. That first hour of life, ideally being skin to skin with mom or dad and taking each other in, that eye contact that new moms have with their babies and dads have with their babies is so powerful. Like, there's imprinting that goes on when the phone is in the room and all of a sudden she hasn't even delivered her placenta yet and she's FaceTiming people across the world. They become out of their body, So I think, yeah, I love what you said, and just creating a space where it's warm, it's safe, it's cozy, it's that family unit, just being together.
Yeah, and I get, as I'm listening to this and like hearing the sound of my own voice, like it seems oversimplified in a way. Like, I don't want to dismiss that people have complicated, complex, like relational dynamics, and that there's stuff that occurs like physiologically, like there's always going to be the ends of the spectrum that call for more care, in my opinion. But I think just generally, I have noticed that when people are attuned to themselves, they do a lot better in the world. And when they listen and they act on what they're experiencing. So just a silly example, like if you are at a dinner party and you don't feel well, go home. Why are you trying to like push through? And who are you trying to push through for? Like we compromise our own needs, myself included. I spent years of my life not even knowing that my needs were as important as the next person, because I was a child growing up trying to navigate everyone else's emotional experience and making sure everyone else was taken care of. So like my trauma response was like, I don't even know that I have needs. But I, again, had to like really learn and rewire myself to trust them and to tune into them and to act on them. It's not enough to just know your needs and then not act on them. So people feel in healthcare situations or in educational, like whatever institution, let's say, wherever there are experts, yeah, we trust them and we thank them and we're grateful for their skill because that's what they went, and studied, or they've honed their whole life. But no one knows your body better than you. And like, if something is not feeling right, well, do you even know how to sense if something doesn't feel right? And then how can you speak to that? How can you act on that? How can you advocate for yourself?
I think it's really important to emphasize, especially to new moms, that it's so important to take care of yourself, because the guilt that you have as a mom and the giveaway, right? That you're giving so much towards somebody else, that your feelings are kind of put first, second, third, last, the more kids you have, putting your husband's feeling, all the things. So I think, women in general, especially new moms, just really, really, really need to hear it, that they are important and they need to take care of themselves and they are just as important as the next person. So yeah, thank you for saying
Yeah,
that.
and your relationship is really important and your partner is important, and also like they have to know that your needs are valuable and important, and there needs to be, again, more skill set that humans could increase and cultivate around communicating and understanding and discerning what their needs are and becoming more, like I said, attuned to this vessel versus the phone or the internet or their neighbor or whatever it is. Like, cool, thank you so much. I'm really glad that you sleep trained like that and that worked for you. That's wonderful. Like, that might not work in our home, And we've been programmed and trained and conditioned for so many years to ignore the intuition, to ignore our body-based wisdom and feedback for so many different reasons. But yeah, I think more than ever, we need to really get back in our bodies and trust them. I would encourage and really invite you to be like, you are sacred. Your needs, your physiology, your place on this planet is so vital and so important.
So you have built a community around growth and transformation. What do you think women are most hungry for that traditional healthcare isn't giving them?
To be validated. I think that's a big piece of why women struggle to listen to their bodies and listen to themselves, because they have maybe shared in situations medically or, in their relationships or whatever, or been minimized or been like dismissed. So I think, yeah, hearing, truly like listening to the concerns, the questions, I think that would be really valuable. And looking at things more holistically and contextually. Like I mentioned before, not every body is the same. Not every environment is the same. Not everybody's life circumstance moves in this like beautiful textbook flow chart. There's nuance and variance and emotional connection and spiritual connection. It's all just a more holistic view. Like that we're not robots.
I was taking everything in that you were saying because the way that my brain is wired, because I went to school, I've been in the medical system for so many years. So my brain is wired a certain way. So to listen to a different perspective, I think is really important. And I value what you're saying. And I think there is work that we can do as medical professionals, that we need to be more open and meet people where they're at. So thank you for sharing your point of view. We may not align 100%, but I appreciate the difference.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful for the way of thinking that is procedural, that is like operational, that is like, precision, that is like step 1, 2, 3, 4. Like there is a need and a value and an organization that is required to keep this system alive. And I am so committed to supporting frontline workers because they are in one of the toughest positions. Like they're on a time crunch, they're overworked, they're tired, exhausted, burnt out, not getting debriefed during traumatic experiences, not getting psychosocial supports that they require. Like I really witnessed that the individuals in these types of systems, whether it's healthcare, education, like you kind of have to disassociate and go numb sometimes in order to like keep going. And that's really hard on the body and really hard on an individual. And it affects their relationships. It affects their physiology. It affects everything. And so I totally recognize and appreciate that the way that the system is structured doesn't necessarily lend itself to everyone sitting down and holding hands and being like, let's talk about this. Like, let's look at this from all angles. No, we are triaging and like, you're in acute state. We got to move. And that there's a time and a place for that. And yeah, the conversation on like how healthcare is structured, I'm so grateful for our system. Don't get me wrong, but I think that there's a lot of things that could be done to change the efficacy and the sustainability of the model so that the people that are invested in it are not every day going home being like, what just happened?
Yeah. Some days it feels like a tour of duty.
You know? And there's like,
No, I've been to war.
yeah,
No.
and then there's beautiful moments too, and that's how
Yeah.
life is. But yeah, I think we could all be encouraged, whether on the receiving end or on the giving end, to just be a bit more human in our interactions and our awarenesses.
I think another piece of it is after doing it for so many years, there is a bit of numbing. Like as the nurse, you have seen something over and over and over again. But to that patient, it's their first time seeing that. So, I mean, I don't know how you can change that within yourself, but what advice would you give there?
Help me. I think that's just having the awareness of that and helping yourself remember that at times is great. And it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to get it right all the time because you're going to be on a 12-hour shift and someone comes in like on your 11th hour and you're like, okay, it's really hard to muster up some empathy here, especially because you have a tickle in your throat, you know? But again, if we have the nervous system awareness, if we have the ability to take a moment and be like, what's really going on here? What's happening? Allowing yourself to pause and take stock can sometimes just like help you be in the moment a little more and be like, all right, well, there's no actual danger right here. It's a tickle in the throat. I'm just using a dumb example.
No, it's good.
Clearly, this person is in distress. So their nervous system is activated. They think that there's a threat to their survival. Like ultimately, that's what's going on, whether they have awareness of that or not. Be like, okay, what actually is needed now? How can I move from that space? Oh, they need to know that they're not dying. How do I just bring a bit of comfort and reassure them like, you know what? I really hear that you're in pain and you're going to be okay. You're not dying.
Yeah.
You know? But
it is funny that you say that though, because it seems the later it gets in the shift, like closer to the 11th hour, the more absurd things you see. No, it's a thing. It's a thing on triage.
Yeah. And also the permission to self to be like, I am actually a really empathetic, loving, kind, sweet person. I also recognize I too am in distress and exhausted and my nervous system is actually shot and I can't show up. It's actually physically impossible for me to show up at my highest, most connected, loving, best self right now because I am in the tank. And this is where I think the system could support more. 12-hour shift, that's insane, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
thanks for saying.
It's inhuman. Like, I'm sorry, like that may have worked back in the day, but like with the shortages and things that are happening now and the demands, no, doesn't make sense. Tell the Minister of Health.
Preach. What is one practice, however small, that every expectant parent could bring into their daily life right now to feel more connected and present?
My initial thing was like, deal with your shit. Like, oh my gosh, I wish my parents dealt with their trauma before they traumatized me. You know?
That's a good answer.
And maybe that is it, you know, and that's why I love what I do because we can lift heavy things with some lightness and we can lift them on a daily basis and the load gets easier and easier. Like it's really hard when you stuff everything down for 45, 50 years. And then all of a sudden when your body can't handle it anymore, you're like, I'm about to explode with 50 years of all this stuff that I haven't processed. So I think a daily practice of tapping into how you're feeling and what your emotions are doing and learning how to honor them and have resources and tools, however small, to shift them.
What are some specific ways you can unload? Like, what are some examples?
You could journal. You could talk about it. You could You could breathe, you could move your body, you could walk without anything. Like, give yourself some space, cool the noise. You could navigate your device usage and have quiet time. Just slow it down. Slow down, refocus, reorganize, get clear on what matters to you. Have a shower, eat some good food. And
Nourishing
like
food.
not 8 cups of coffee. That's going to wire you all day long. Drink some water, like basic needs. And most humans, if you really talk to them, they're not taking care of their basic needs. And therefore, it's really hard to regulate when your body is freaking out and in survival mode. So like a lot of times I think folks think that the survival mode is a result of what's going on out there, but sometimes it's actually like how you're caring for yourself. There is, I think, a grief and a bit of shame maybe that we don't want to look at when we realize we haven't been taking care of ourselves. Like, don't rush. That's a good one too. Like, go pee when you got to go pee. Don't hold it in. Like, these like basic things are.
That's a really hard thing to say to a nurse.
Yeah. Like, when was the last time when you were like, hey, I'll be right back, I just got to pee? Someone was like, are you kidding me? You have to pee?
The good thing is pregnant ladies have to pee a lot. So generally they say I have to go to the bathroom, and then I say, I'm going to.
Yeah. It's just a lot more simple than people think. You don't have to go to therapy for 45 years. Just do a little bit every day and go to therapy. Like, but doesn't have to be so scary.
I think the overarching thing that I'm getting from you, and I'm so grateful for, is go inward and cut the noise, which is very valuable.
Yeah. And maybe your body hasn't been a safe space, or you haven't had a great relationship with your body, or you numb things because you're trying to keep yourself safe. And it's really hard to look at things. And this is where having community and having support and having professionals to really guide you in those processes. But yeah, we can't just think our way out of something or forget about it. Our body will always show us what's needed. And unfortunately, many of us haven't learned that. And when we do start to learn that, things really do get a lot easier. And you can start to take action in a way that is really meaningful. Like it took you to feeling in your body like, okay, we gotta make some new choices here. You feel it. You don't just think it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It is so great to see your beautiful face and learn from you. I think there's a lot of takeaways.
Yeah. Thank you for your perspective. And like I said, I think it's invaluable for women to hear, to take care of themselves.
Yeah. And I would have loved to watch my mom take better care of herself. So I always think about that, and I understand now as an adult, like the reasons and why she was unable to do that. But it came with some pretty severe consequences for my mom, in not taking care of herself and prioritizing other people and certain things. So I really do believe that as mamas, your children are so much better off watching that be modeled to them than not. It doesn't do anyone any good to self-sacrifice and abandon yourself.
Yeah. And it's not being selfish.
No.
Doing that at all.
No, it's actually really smart and beautiful and lovely. And it might feel really uncomfortable if that's not how you have been operating. But there's no timeline of when you can start that. If you're like, I need to do that now, like, okay, bit by bit, just start in small ways. You don't have to like blow up your life, But I'm really proud of both of you. And I'm really grateful that people who are going on their birthing journey, like hopefully myself included in the future, will be able to learn from people who have this really holistic perspective and who can help encourage and empower parents to step into their own power and move from that place of love versus fear.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah,
so
you're
much,
welcome.
Jess.
If you have any questions about what you heard today, please reach out. Sarah and I would love to hear from you. email us at birthslater@yahoo.com. That's BIRTHSLATER@yahoo.com. We are here to support you every step of the way. And now for the legal language. This podcast is solely for educational and entertainment purposes. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional advice from qualified individuals involved in your prenatal, labor, and postnatal care. Every pregnancy and birth is different, so always talk to your healthcare provider about what's right for you.